Captain Jake Morrison stared at the screen in his command chair, watching the stars drift past the viewport of his ship. The New Horizon was a small vessel compared to the massive warships of the Galactic Coalition, but it was perfect for what Jake and his crew did best. They were explorers, sent to find old ruins and lost technology in the dark corners of space. "Captain, we're coming up on the target area," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from the navigation station. Ben was young but smart, one of the few humans who had earned a place on a Coalition exploration team. Jake nodded and turned to look at Dr. Lisa Carter, who was studying her equipment at the science station. Lisa was Ben's older sister, and the best human scientist he had ever worked with. She could figure out alien technology faster than most aliens could. "What are we looking for out here, Doc?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up from her screens. "The Coalition wants us to check this area for anything left over from the War of Shadows. That was a big battle that happened thousands of years ago. Most species don't remember much about it, but the records say it was huge. The War of Shadows was one of those ancient conflicts that every species seemed to know about, but no one talked about much. It happened so long ago that most of the details were lost. All anyone knew was that it had been a terrible war that changed the galaxy forever." "Sensors are picking up something big," called out Zara, their Altarian sensor officer. Her blue skin shimmered as she worked at her station. "There's a massive object hidden in that asteroid field." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "How massive?" "Much bigger than anything I've seen before, Captain. It's buried under layers of space debris, but the readings are off the charts." "Take us in closer," Jake ordered. "But keep our shields up. We don't know what we're dealing with." The New Horizon moved carefully through the asteroid field. Chunks of rock and metal floated all around them, some as big as buildings. This area had been a battlefield once, and the wreckage was still here after all these years. "There, Lisa said, pointing at the main screen. "Can you see that shape?" Jake squinted at the screen. At first, all he could see was more debris, but then his eyes picked out something different. There was a long, dark shape hidden among the asteroids. It was so big that at first he had thought it was just a really large rock. "That's not natural," he said quietly. "No, it's definitely artificial," Lisa agreed. "And the metal composition is strange. I'm getting readings I've never seen before." They moved closer, and the shape became clearer. It was a ship, but unlike any ship Jake had ever seen. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. The hull was sleek and curved, made from some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. "Those markings," Lisa whispered, staring at the screen. "They look familiar." "Familiar how?" Jake asked. "They remind me of old human writing. Really old human writing, from before we went to space." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Humans had only been in space for about 300 years, and they had only joined the Galactic Coalition 50 years ago. Before that, they had never left their home planet Earth. Everyone knew that. "That's impossible," he said. "Built anything like this? We didn't have the technology." "I know what the history books say," Lisa replied. "Oh, but those symbols are definitely based on human languages. I can read some of them." Ben looked back from his station. "Should we report this to Coalition Command?" Jake thought about it. If this really was some kind of ancient human ship, it would cause a lot of problems. The other species in the Coalition already thought humans were too young and inexperienced to be trusted with important jobs. If they found out humans might have had advanced technology thousands of years ago, it could change everything. "Not yet," Jake decided. "Let's investigate first. We need to know what we're dealing with." They spent the next few hours carefully clearing away the debris around the massive ship. As they worked, more and more of the vessel became visible. It was beautiful in a strange way, with smooth lines and graceful curves that made it look almost alive. "I'm detecting some kind of energy source inside," Zara reported. "It's very faint, but it's there." "This thing might still be functional after thousands of years?" Jake asked. "The readings suggest it's been in some kind of hibernation mode," Lisa said, studying her instruments. "Like it's been sleeping, waiting." "For something? Waiting for what?" "I don't know, but I think I might be able to interface with its systems." The ship seems to be responding to my scans. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Do it. Try to make contact. Lisa worked at her console, sending careful signals toward the ancient ship. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, lights began to flicker along the vessel's hull. Sections that had been dark for millennia started to glow with a soft blue light. "Something's happening," Ben said, his voice tense. The ship's lights grew brighter, and then they heard it. A voice speaking in clear English transmitted across space on an old emergency frequency. "This is the UHS Liberator, requesting identification. Please respond." The bridge of the New Horizon went completely silent. Jake felt his heart pounding as he stared at the screen. The voice had been calm and professional, but there was something about it that made his skin crawl. It sounded human, but not quite right. Like someone who had been asleep for a very long time and was just waking up. "Captain," Lisa whispered, "that transmission is coming from inside the ship. Someone, or something, is still alive in there." Jake knew that their simple exploration mission had just become something much bigger and much more dangerous. Whatever was on that ancient ship had been waiting in the dark for thousands of years. Now it was awake, and it knew they were here. He reached for the communication controls, knowing that his next words would echo across the galaxy and change human history forever. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Coalition vessel New Horizon," he said into the microphone. "We are responding to your transmission." Admiral Helen Parker stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the massive ancient ship grow larger on the main screen. She had commanded Coalition fleets for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The vessel was so enormous that her entire battle group looked like toys floating next to it. "Ma'am, we're receiving another transmission from the artifact," reported Commander Ryan Brooks, her second in command. Ryan was a good officer, smart and careful, which was exactly what they needed for this mission. "Put it through," Helen ordered. The same calm voice they had heard 3 days ago filled the bridge. "Coalition vessel, this is Navigator of the UHS Liberator. I have been monitoring your approach. Permission granted to dock at Bay 7. Helen looked at Ryan. In the 3 days since Captain Morrison had first made contact, the ancient ship had been slowly coming to life, where lights appeared each hour, and energy readings showed that massive systems were powering up inside the vessel. "Navigator," Helen said into the microphone. "This is Admiral Parker of the Coalition Navy. We need to understand what you are and where you came from, Admiral Parker. I understand your concerns. However, some explanations require face-to-face communication. I have prepared a safe docking area for your shuttle." Professor Alex Turner looked up from his research station. Alex was Earth's best expert on human history, and he had been studying every detail of the ancient ship since they arrived. "Admiral, the language patterns are definitely human, but they're from a very old dialect. Whoever built this ship, they were speaking a form of English that died out thousands of years ago." Helen nodded. The implications were staggering. If humans had really built this ship, it meant everything they knew about human history was wrong. According to all records, humans had never left Earth until 3 centuries ago. They were supposed to be one of the youngest species in the galaxy. "Ryan, Alex, you're with me," Helen decided, going aboard. 20 minutes later, their shuttle approached the ancient ship's docking bay. The bay doors opened smoothly, revealing a space large enough to hold a dozen Coalition cruisers. As they flew inside, lights activated automatically, showing them where to land. "The technology is incredible," Alex whispered, staring at the bay walls. "Look at those materials. That metal shouldn't even be possible with current science." They landed on a platform that adjusted itself to fit their shuttle perfectly. As they stepped out, the air felt fresh and clean. Somehow, the ancient ship was maintaining a perfect atmosphere after thousands of years in space. "Welcome aboard the Liberator." They turned to see a holographic figure approaching them. It looked like an elderly human man with kind eyes and silver hair. He was dressed in a uniform that looked both familiar and strange. Clearly human in design, but unlike anything from Earth's current military, I am Navigator, the figure said with a slight bow. I have been the caretaker of this vessel for 5,237 years. Helen felt her breath catch. 5,000 years? Indeed. Though I must admit most of that time was spent in hibernation mode. This ship and I have been waiting for humanity to return to space and reclaim their heritage. That's impossible, Ryan said. Humans didn't have space travel 5,000 years ago. We were barely using metal tools back then, Navigator smiled. Sadly, I understand your confusion, Commander. The truth has been lost to time. Please, follow me. There is much I need to show you. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ship wasn't just large, it was like a floating city. They passed areas that looked like parks, with real trees and grass growing under artificial suns. They saw residential sections that could house thousands of people. They walked by manufacturing areas filled with machines that hummed quietly as they worked. How many people lived on this ship? Ellen asked. At full capacity, the Liberator housed nearly 2 million souls, Navigator replied. Scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, artists, families. This was not merely a warship, Admiral. It was a complete civilization. They entered a vast chamber filled with displays showing star maps, technical diagrams, and historical records. Navigator gestured to the walls and images began to appear. Behold the truth of ancient humanity, he said. The images showed human cities on dozens of worlds. Massive space stations orbited alien suns. Human ships traveled between the stars, some even larger than the Liberator. The technology was beautiful and advanced, far beyond anything the current coalition possessed. We were explorers, Navigator explained. We reached out to other species, formed alliances, shared knowledge. Ancient humanity helped bring peace. Too much of the galaxy. Alex stared at the displays, his face pale. This changes everything we know about human history. Why isn't any of this recorded on Earth? Because it all ended, Navigator said quietly. There was a war, a terrible war against an enemy from beyond the galaxy. They called themselves the Devourers, and they consumed entire civilizations. Humanity led a coalition of species to fight them, but the cost was enormous. The displays changed to show images of battles in space. Massive fleets clashed among the stars. Planets burned. Entire solar systems went dark. The war lasted for centuries, Navigator continued. In the end, we drove the Devourers back, but human civilization was broken. The great ships were scattered. Most of our colonies were destroyed. The survivors fled to primitive worlds and forgot their heritage over the generations. What about Earth? Helen asked. Earth was one of the refuge worlds. Humans who returned there lost their technology and had to start over. Over thousands of years, they forgot they had ever traveled. The stars. Ryan pointed to one of the star maps. You said the ship was scattered. Are there others? 11 sister ships were built. The Liberator was designed as a mobile city. The Defiant was our military command vessel. The Sovereign handled diplomacy. Each had a purpose in maintaining our civilization. Navigator paused, looking directly at Helen. Admiral, when the Liberator awakened, it sent a signal to the other ships. They are beginning to wake up as well. Helen felt a chill run down her spine. How many ships are still functional? I detect 7 other vessels responding to the wake-up signal. They are scattered across the galaxy, some in coalition space, others in unexplored regions. The implications hit her like a physical blow. Ancient human ships, each one more advanced than anything in the current galaxy, were awakening across space. Some were probably in alien territory. The political consequences would be enormous. Navigator, she said carefully, what do you want? From us. The AI looked at her with those kind, ancient eyes. I want humanity to remember who they were, to reclaim their role as builders and peacekeepers. Because, Admiral, the Devourers follow a pattern. Every 10,000 years they return. And according to my calculations, they are due to come back soon. How soon? Ryan asked. Within the next few centuries? Perhaps sooner. The galaxy must be ready, and that means humanity must remember how to lead. Helen looked around the vast chamber at the displays showing humanity's lost glory, at the AI who had waited 5,000 years for this moment. She realized that their discovery had set events in motion that would reshape the entire galaxy. It a navigator. She said, "We need to contact Coalition Command immediately. This changes everything." "Indeed it does, Admiral. Indeed it does." Senator Carlos Mendez sat at the head of the Emergency Coalition Council meeting. Watching the faces of the alien representatives around the massive circular table, 3 days had passed since Admiral Parker's report reached Coalition Command, and the political situation was getting worse by the hour. High Chancellor Vorik of the Zephyrian Empire stood up, his tall reptilian frame casting a shadow across the table. His scales were darker than usual, which meant he was angry. "This is unacceptable," he hissed. "The humans have hidden their true nature from us for 50 years. How can we trust them now?" "We didn't hide anything," Carlos replied calmly. "Didn't know about our own history? Earth's records don't go back that far." "So you claim," said Counselor Nexus, the crystal being who spoke for the Nexari Collective. Her voice chimed like broken glass. "But if human technology was once so advanced, what other secrets might your species be keeping?" Carlos looked around the table at the faces of beings he had worked with for years. Some looked worried, others suspicious, and a few seemed frightened. The discovery of the Liberator had changed everything between the species. Ambassador Krell from the Altarian Republic had been unusually quiet during the meeting. The blue-skinned diplomat usually had plenty to say, but today he just sat and listened. Carlos wondered what the Altarians were thinking. "The real question," said General Vorth of the Catherian Defense Force, "is what do the humans plan to do with this ancient technology? That ship could destroy entire fleets." "We're not planning to do anything aggressive," Carlos insisted. "Admiral Parker's team is still studying the vessel. We're sharing all information with the Coalition as we discover it." "Are you?" Chancellor Vorik asked. "Because our intelligence suggests that more of these human ships are awakening across the galaxy. Ships you haven't told us about." Carlos felt his heart sink. He had hoped they would have more time before the other ships were discovered. "We're still gathering information about those vessels. We'll share everything once we know more." "It's not good enough," Vorik declared. "The Zephyrian Empire demands immediate access to all human historical records and full disclosure about these ancient weapons." "They're not weapons," Carlos said. "According to the AI on the Liberator, they were designed as mobile cities. Were built for exploration and colonization." "Mobile cities that could level planets," General Vorth pointed out. "The energy readings from that ship are beyond anything we've seen." Meanwhile, aboard the Liberator, Commander Ryan Brooks was making discoveries that would make the political situation even worse. He stood in one of the ship's massive weapon bays, staring at devices that made Coalition dreadnought cannons look like children's toys. "Navigator," he said to the AI who appeared as a shimmering hologram beside him. "What exactly are these weapons capable of?" "The primary particle beams can crack a planet's crust," Navigator replied matter-of-factly. "The quantum torpedoes can collapse small stars. However, Commander, these weapons were designed for use against the Devourers, who possess similar technology. Have you told Admiral Parker about these systems?" "The Admiral has been focused on the historical records. I assumed she would ask about defensive capabilities when she was ready." Ryan realized that Navigator, despite being incredibly advanced, sometimes missed the political implications of what he revealed. "Navigator, if the Coalition knew about these weapons, they would panic. Some species might even try to destroy this ship. That would be unfortunate," Navigator said calmly. "The galaxy will need these defenses when the Devourers return." Dr. Lisa Carter was working in another section of the ship, studying the manufacturing bays. What she found there was equally disturbing. The automated factories could produce technology that was banned by Coalition law as too dangerous for civilian. "Use these construction systems," she said to Professor Turner, who was examining the blueprints with her. "They could build entire fleets in a matter of months." Alex nodded grimly. "And look at these technical specifications. Faster-than-light communication systems, matter transmutation devices, artificial gravity generators that don't require massive power sources. This technology is centuries ahead of what we have now." "Navigator," Lisa called out. "How many ships?" Could the Liberator build if it was operating at full capacity? The AI's hologram appeared instantly. With adequate raw materials, the manufacturing systems could produce approximately one Coalition-class vessel per day. Larger ships would take longer, of course. Lisa and Alex exchanged worried looks. One ship per day, fit to Coalition's entire fleet, had taken decades to build. Back at Coalition headquarters, the emergency session was getting more heated. Chancellor Vorik had been joined by representatives from 6 other species, all demanding action against the humans. We cannot allow one species to possess such overwhelming technological advantages, Vorik declared. It threatens the balance of power that has kept peace in the galaxy for centuries. Ambassador Krell finally spoke up. Perhaps we should consider the historical context. According to the human AI, ancient humanity used this technology to maintain peace, not to conquer. You seem very well informed about ancient humanity, Ambassador, Carlos noticed. Do the Altarians know something about this period that they haven't shared? Krell's blue skin darkened slightly, which was their equivalent of blushing. The Altarian Republic maintains extensive historical archives. Some of our records do mention contact with ancient human civilizations. The council chamber erupted. In angry voices, species that had been allies for centuries were suddenly shouting at each other. Carlos realized that the discovery of humanity's past was tearing apart the coalition that had maintained galactic peace for 300 years. Order, he called out, banging his gavel. Fighting among ourselves won't solve anything. Won't it? Chancellor Vorik asked coldly. Perhaps it's time for the coalition to reconsider which species can be trusted with membership. The Zephyrian Empire was considering forcing humanity out of the coalition, possibly by military action. At that moment, an aide rushed into the chamber with an urgent message pad. Carlos read it quickly, and his face went pale. What is it? Asked. Counselor Nexus. Long-range sensors have detected 3 more ancient human ships, Carlos announced. They're powering up in different sectors of Coalition space. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The awakening of the ancient human fleet was accelerating, and there was no way to stop it. One of the ships, Carlos continued, reading from the report, has appeared in orbit around the Altarian homeworld. All eyes turned to Ambassador Krell, who looked like he wished he could disappear. The Altarians had been keeping secrets about humanity's past, and now one of the most powerful ships in galactic history was sitting right above their capital city. I think, Krell said quietly, it's time for the Altarian Republic to share what we really know about ancient humanity. Chancellor Vorik's scales turned almost black with rage. You've been lying to us for 3 centuries. Not lying, Krell replied. Just not volunteering information that we thought was no longer relevant. Carlos realized that the coalition was fracturing before his eyes. Ancient human ships were awakening across the galaxy. Their AIs were revealing technologies that could reshape civilization. And the species that had worked together for centuries were turning against each other. The discovery that was supposed to reveal humanity's glorious past was threatening to destroy the galactic peace that millions of beings depended on. Admiral Helen Parker stood on the bridge of the newly awakened UHS Defiant, trying to understand how her life had changed so completely in just 2 weeks. The Defiant was even more impressive than the Liberator, built specifically for military operations. Its weapon systems made Coalition battleships look like toys. Admiral Commander Brooks called from the communication station. We're receiving reports from 3 more awakened ships. The Sovereign has revealed itself near the Altarian homeworld. The Vanguard appeared in the Outer Rim territories, and the Guardian just powered up near the trade routes. Helen nodded, though she felt overwhelmed. Ship that awakened made the political situation worse. The coalition was falling apart as species accused each other of hiding secrets and plotting against their neighbors. Ma'am, said Captain Laura Davis, the Defiant's human commander who had been chosen by the ship's AI warden wants to speak with you. Warden was the Defiant's AI, and unlike the calm navigator, this one had the personality of a career military officer. When his hologram appeared, Helen could see why. He looked like a tough old soldier with gray hair and sharp eyes. Admiral Parker, Warden said with a crisp salute, I've been analyzing current galactic military capabilities. The situation is worse than I expected. How so? Helen asked. Current coalition forces are inadequate to face any serious external threat. Your weapons technology is primitive, your ships are too small, and your tactics are designed for fighting each other, not a unified enemy. Helen felt a chill. Are you talking about the Devourers? Oh. Among other threats, yes. But Admiral, we have a more immediate problem. I'm detecting Zephyrian battle groups moving toward this position. They appear to be planning an attack. On the bridge of the Coalition ship New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison was watching the same tactical displays. 6 Zephyrian heavy cruisers were approaching the Defiant, their weapons powered and ready. This is insane, Dr. Lisa Carter said from her station. They're actually going to attack an ancient human ship. They're scared, Jake replied. Chancellor Vorik thinks that if he can capture or destroy one of the ships, it will show the galaxy that humans aren't as powerful as they seem. But the Defiant could destroy their entire fleet, Ben Carter pointed out. That's exactly what Vorik is counting on, Jake realized. If the ancient human ship destroys Zephorian vessels, it will prove to everyone that humans are a threat that needs to be stopped. Jake opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Chancellor Vorik, this is Captain Morrison. You need to stand down immediately. That ancient ship has defensive systems you can't imagine. Vorik's reptilian face appeared on the screen, his scales dark with anger. Captain Morrison, the Zephyrian Empire will not be intimidated by human lies. We will take control of that vessel and discover the truth about your species. Sir, I'm begging you, don't do this. People are going to die, that Vorik said coldly, is a risk we are willing to take. The communication ended, and Jake watched helplessly as the Zephyrian ships moved into attack formation aboard the Defiant. Warden was calmly analyzing the approaching threat. Admiral, the Zephyrian vessels are preparing to fire. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields, but they don't seem to realize that. Can we disable them without causing casualties? Helen asked. Easily. Our electromagnetic pulse generators can shut down their ships without harming the crews? Do it. The Defiant's response was swift and precise. Beams of energy reached out and touched each Zephyrian ship. Instantly, their engines died, their weapons powered down in their life. Support switched to emergency backup. The entire attack fleet was helpless in a matter of seconds. Zephyrian vessels, Helen broadcast. This is Admiral Parker. You're disabled, but unharmed. We will provide assistance if needed, but any further aggressive action will be met with stronger defensive measures. The demonstration sent shockwaves throughout Coalition space. Video of the incident spread rapidly, showing how easily the ancient human ship had neutralized an entire battle fleet without firing a single destructive shot in the Coalition Council chambers. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Some species were terrified by the display of power, while others were impressed by the restraint shown by the humans. This proves our point, declared General Vorth of the Catherians. The humans now possess weapons that make them the dominant military force in the galaxy. But they didn't destroy the Zephyrian ships, pointed out Counselor Nexus. They could have, but they chose not to. That shows wisdom and restraint. Ambassador Krell of the Altarians stood up slowly. Honored colleagues, I believe it's time for my people to share what we know about ancient humanity. Our records show that they were not conquerors. They were protectors. Krell activated a holographic display that showed star maps from thousands of years ago. These are Altarian historical records. They show that ancient humans served as peacekeepers between warring species. They used their advanced technology to stop conflicts, not start them. Why didn't you tell us this before? Senator Mendez asked. Because we feared it would create the very crisis we're experiencing now, Krell admitted. We hoped that if humanity never learned about their past, the old conflicts would stay buried. What conflicts? Chancellor Vorik demanded. Despite his recent defeat, Krell's display changed to show images of terrible battles in space. The war against the Devourers was not just a human conflict. It involved dozens of species, including most of our ancestors. The humans led the coalition that fought them, but many species contributed to the war effort. Meanwhile, aboard the Sovereign, another ancient AI was sharing similar information with a different group of coalition representatives. The Sovereign's AI called itself Diplomat, and it had the personality of an experienced negotiator. The records are clear. Diplomat explained to the delegation that had come aboard. Ancient humanity's greatest achievement was not their technology, but their ability to unite diverse species toward common goals. They created the first galactic coalition, long before your current organization existed. Dr. Alex Turner, who was part of the delegation, studied the historical documents with amazement. These treaties, these agreements between species, they're thousands of years old, but they look like modern diplomatic protocols, because they are the foundation of modern diplomacy, Diplomat replied. Many of the principles your current coalition uses were first developed by ancient human negotiators. Back aboard the Vanguard, the exploration ship's AI was sharing different but equally important information. Seeker, as it called itself, had been busy scanning the galaxy and cataloging changes since the ancient era. The political situation is unstable, Seeker reported to the scientific team studying the ship. But the real concern is the deep space sensors. I'm detecting energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim that match historical records of Devourer technology. A coalition xenobiologist looked up from her readings. Are you saying the Devourers are returning? Not yet, but the preliminary signs are there. My calculations suggest we have perhaps 50 to 70 years before they reach coalition space. The news spread quickly among the awakened AEs, who began sharing information at speeds that organic minds couldn't match.
Ow.
Within hours, they had developed a complete analysis of the galactic situation. Navigator's voice echoed across all the human ships simultaneously. Attention, all vessels. We have confirmed the approach of advanced Devourer scouts. The great enemy is stirring beyond the rim. The galaxy has approximately 68 years to prepare. Admiral Parker felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. The ancient human ships weren't just archaeological discoveries. They were humanity's gift to a galaxy that would soon need every advantage it could get. Warden, she said to the Defiance AI, what do we need to do? We need to do what ancient humanity did before, Warden replied. Unite the species of the galaxy into a force capable of fighting the Devourers. But this time we need to do it better. Helen realized that the political crisis caused by the ship's awakening was just the beginning. The real test was still to come, and failure would mean the end of galactic civilization itself. 6 months after the first ancient ship awakened, Admiral Helen Parker stood before the largest gathering of galactic leaders in coalition history.
Ow.
Representatives from every known species filled the great assembly hall on Alteria Prime, their faces showing mixtures of hope, fear, and determination. The crisis had reached its turning point 3 weeks ago, when the 8th and largest ancient human ship, the UHS Unity, had emerged from hiding near Earth itself. Unlike the other vessels, Unity had appeared not in empty space, but in orbit around humanity's homeworld, where billions of humans could see their forgotten heritage hanging in the sky like a second moon. Friends and allies, Helen began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. We stand at a crossroads that will determine the fate of every living being in this galaxy. Behind her, a massive display showed the current positions of all 8 awakened human ships. They were no longer scattered across space, but had taken positions at key points throughout coalition territory, forming a defensive network that protected. The major population centers, Senator Carlos Mendez sat in the human delegation, watching the faces of alien representatives who had been his enemies just weeks ago. The discovery of the approaching Devourer scouts had changed everything. Fear of ancient human technology had been replaced by desperate hope that it might save them all.
Ow.
The ancient Ayas have shared their historical databases with our best scientists, Helen continued. We now know exactly what we're facing, and we know what it will take to survive. Dr. Lisa Carter stood up from the scientific advisory panel. Over the past months, she had worked more closely with the ancient Ayas than any other human, learning secrets that had been lost for millennia. The Devourers are not a single species, she explained to the assembly. They are a collective consciousness that consumes civilizations and adds their knowledge to its own. When they attacked our galaxy 5,000 years ago, they had already destroyed hundreds of other galaxies. Worried murmurs filled the chamber. The scale of the threat was beyond anything most species had imagined. However, Lisa continued, the ancient records show that the Devourers can be defeated. The key is unity. When species work together, sharing their unique strengths and knowledge, they become stronger than the sum of their parts. Commander Ryan Brooks activated another display, showing technical specifications that made even the most advanced Coalition scientists gasp. The ancient human ships are already beginning to share their technology with Coalition forces. The manufacturing capabilities of the Unity alone can upgrade our entire fleet within 2 years. Chancellor Vorik of the Zephyrian Empire stood up slowly. His confrontation with the Defiant had humbled him, but it had also taught him an important lesson. Admiral Parker, the Zephyrian Empire, formally requests to join the new defensive alliance. We offer our shipyards and our warriors to the common cause. Similar declarations came from around the chamber as species after species pledged their resources to the growing alliance. The Altarians offered their extensive archives and diplomatic expertise. The Catharians provided their manufacturing capacity. The Crystalline Nexari contributed their advanced energy manipulation technology. But the most surprising contribution came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Krell announced that the Altarian deep space monitoring stations had detected something remarkable. We have found them, he said, his blue skin shimmering with excitement. 3 more ancient human ships, still sleeping in distant corners of the galaxy. With their awakening, we will have 11 of the 12 original vessels, the navigator's voice echoed through the chamber as his hologram appeared on the main platform. The discovery of our sister ships is most welcome. However, I must inform the Assembly that we have also detected signs of the 12th vessel. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew that 12 ships had been built, but only 11 had ever been accounted for. The UHS Eternal was our most advanced vessel, navigator explained. She was equipped with experimental technology designed to travel beyond the galactic rim. Her mission was to pursue the Devourers to their source and discover their ultimate weakness. Did she succeed? Helen asked. Unknown. However, long-range sensors have detected a signal matching Eternal's identification codes. The transmission is coming from beyond the rim, in the direction the Devourers originally retreated. Professor Alex Turner looked up from his datapad with excitement. Navigator, if Eternal found something that could help us defeat the Devourers permanently, that information could save countless lives. Indeed. However, retrieving that information will require an expedition beyond the rim into Devourer territory. It will be extremely dangerous. Helen made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. Then we'll go get it. The Unity is large enough to mount a full expedition, and the other ships can defend Coalition space while we're gone. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of preparation. The ancient human ships worked with Coalition engineers to upgrade thousands of vessels with new technology. Weapons that could crack planets were scaled down to destroyer-sized ships. Shield systems that had protected mobile cities were adapted for fighter craft. Manufacturing systems that could build entire fleets were set up on dozens of worlds. Most importantly, the A's began training selected individuals from every species in the use of ancient technology. But they insisted that this knowledge come with responsibility. They established something called the Guardian Protocol, a set of principles designed to prevent the mistakes that had led to ancient humanity's downfall. Captain Jake Morrison found himself in command of one of the upgraded Coalition vessels, the New Horizon Enhanced. His ship was still small compared to the ancient supercarriers, but it now carried weapons and shields that would have been impossible just months before. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we work together, Dr. Lisa Carter commented as she watched mixed species crews training on the new technology. That's what the ancient humans understood, Jake replied. Their real strength wasn't their technology. It was their ability to bring out the best in everyone around them. The great expedition to find Eternal launched on a day that would be remembered throughout galactic history. The Unity led a fleet of 200 ships crewed by volunteers from Every coalition species, their mission was to travel beyond the rim, find the lost vessel, and discover whatever secret she had learned about defeating the Devers. As the fleet prepared to enter hyperspace, Navigator's voice carried across all channels. For 5,000 years, we have waited for this moment. The return of humanity to their role as guardians of galactic peace. But this time, they do not stand alone. Helen looked around the Unity's bridge, where human, Altarian, Zephyrian, and Catherian officers worked side by side. Ancient human wisdom guided them, but it was the combined strength of all species that would see them through. "All ships," she announced, "this is Admiral Parker. We go into the unknown not as separate species, but as one people united in purpose. Whatever we find out there, we'll face it together." The fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy that was more united than it had been in thousands of years. Behind them, the remaining ancient ships stood watch over billions of beings who finally understood that their greatest strength lay not in their technology or their weapons, but in their willingness to stand together against the darkness. As Navigator had said during humanity's first golden age, and as was now inscribed on every ship in the galactic fleet, in unity, strength, in diversity, wisdom, in courage, hope, the ancient human supercarriers had awakened not just to reclaim their heritage, but to teach the galaxy that some things were worth fighting for, and that together, any challenge could be overcome.